Welcome home, where we provide information, inspiration, and motivator after motivator after motivator here on America's Next. I have Bintell Powell here with me today. How you doing, Bintell?
How you doing, Cedric?
I'm doing great, man. I'm happy to have you on the show.
Likewise.
I want to say hi to everybody out there in TV land and in virtual space, whether it be on Roku TV, Apple TV, Android TV, Facebook, or YouTube. I want to say hi. I appreciate you stopping in. And if you're on Facebook or YouTube, I will be looking forward to your comments and or questions tonight because we're in for an interactive discussion. Bintell, where are you from?
I am from, it's a bit of a story. I was born in Brooklyn. My parents are from Jamaica, and I was born in Brooklyn. I was like, that's like the port into New York for people from Jamaica. Everybody lands in like Flatbush. Mm-hmm. And then my parents moved us to Long Island, to Uniondale. I grew up in Uniondale, where Busta Rhymes is from.
Okay.
So like sort of a landmark. I went to Uniondale, and then I moved to Texas. I lived in Texas for a year, and I went to this school called Stratford. They were the 1985 football state champions.
Okay.
And I played football and baseball down there. I played football and soccer, football and baseball and basketball, even though I wasn't good at basketball and football. But I played those sports in Texas, and then I played soccer and baseball my whole life growing up. And then when I came back to New York, we landed in a place called Westbury, which is allegedly, it was one of the largest black middle-class neighborhoods in the country. And all of that moving back and forth is pretty much, it's a very large topic of discussion in this book that I think we're going to talk about, called The Formula.
Sure. So now let's unpack some of the moves that occurred in your life. How old were you when you moved from Jamaica?
Well, I missed being a real Jamaican by like 3 months. My mother came here 3 months before I was supposed to be born. My parents are from Montego Bay, right?
Okay.
And then, so I was born in Brooklyn. I'm from Brooklyn.
Right. Okay. Wow. Do you ever think about the differences that you would have, experienced character-wise had you lived in Jamaica for a little while? Did you want to live there for a little bit?
No. That was always I was always afraid. My mother would be like, we're going to send you back to Jamaica to go to school, right? And I used to be like, no, please don't do that.
Right.
Because I heard like you get beatings and it's hard, and I was like, fuck that, I don't want to go to Jamaica.
Right.
And, but I would have probably been a much more mild-mannered person, probably.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have been as aggressive, maybe. I don't know. Who knows?
Okay.
I know. If I would have stayed in Brooklyn, I'd be dead. I'd have been dead.
Well, let's talk about what it was like for you growing up in Brooklyn. What was it like for you in elementary school? What was going on in your world? What were you seeing? What was happening? Talk to us.
Well, I was seeing a lot of, I was in Flatbush, East 51st, between Winthrop and Clawson is where I was born. And there was just a lot of fighting, just poor people trying to live and survive. So
Mm-hmm.
Brooklyn was kind of tough. Brooklyn was real tough. I got bullied a lot. And there was an old man across the street who used to teach all the kids in the neighborhood how to box. And I beat up my best friend one day in front of my project step, in front of my building, and it was just a real sad affair. So I feel like if I'd have grown up in Brooklyn, I'd have probably been dead. But my parents moved us out to Long Island to this neighborhood named Uniondale, and the part of Uniondale we lived on Lawrence Street was like, I didn't realize it, but there was mad group homes all over the block. It was all
wow.
We owned our house, but the houses next to us were group homes, and they were a bunch of wild-ass, badass kids. I used to get beat up, bullied every day in Uniondale. I fought every day.
Wow.
And my mom, but I played sports a lot, but my mom was always beating me up because I wouldn't fight back when the kids in the street beat me up. I used to try to, I was a little badass kid.
Right.
And a lot of the kids that I grew up with in Uniondale, a lot of them are dead.
If I'm not mistaken, if you look up the national list of black suburbs in America, Uniondale is on that list as an affluent black suburb.
Yeah, nah, that's game. Uniondale is cool because it's right next to Hofstra, right? I grew up right next to Hofstra. The street, like I used to ride my bike all through Hofstra University every day. And I used to see the
Okay.
Jets. I used to see the Jets practice. We used to throw them the football all the time. You know, the Islanders would win the cup, and they would have the parade right past our street. When we moved there, Uniondale had a really good school district.
Right.
But now Uniondale is like full of gangs and Bloods and Crips and MS-13. So,
Wow.
and a lot of the kids that if we would have, luckily for us, I burnt our crib down in Uniondale. I burnt the crib down, like lighting the stove. My father had this wood stove, and he made me light the shit every morning, and I fucking lit the crib on fire and burnt it down. So we moved to Texas, and that's how we escaped Uniondale, right?
Mm.
Moved to Texas. We lived in Houston for a year because my pops wanted to have his own business, and this, long story. So when we found out Houston was too slow, I was like, fuck that. We're going back to New York. We moved back a year, and we landed in this neighborhood called Westbury. And Westbury was like real fly. It was like, black affluent doctors and lawyers and people that own car dealerships, and that's where I got a chance to see the difference between the lifestyle of the North Shore and the South Shore. And it took
Of
me
New
time
York.
to adjust to it.
Right.
I got into a lot of fights. I was real stupid. I was like the dummy in our neighborhood. Like Bintell's always fighting for dumb shit, and I would get caught
Wow.
up. I would get caught up fighting with the knuckleheads on like I guess the poorer side of Westbury, but they were still good people. But they were just they lived next to Westbury, the affluent neighborhood in Westbury that we lived, right? But they were poor just like the people in Uniondale. So they fought. They fought. We fought a lot, and they but they were good people. They got big hearts, and a lot of them have gone on and been very successful. A lot of people that grew up in my side got all fucked up and doing wild shit too. So it did, it's kind of a mix.
It sounds like in your formative years, there was just a lot of fighting going on. We're fighting by you and by other people, but just a lot of fighting. Did
Yeah.
you did you ever feel that fighting would be the summation of your life, or did you look forward to uh more things, more elements, more variety in life than just fighting?
Um, I wanted to be James Bond when I was a kid. I used to watch James Bond movies with my pops. So I always
Okay.
wanted to grow up and wear suits and be an international businessman and bag mad chicks in Manhattan. That was my dream. I dreamed that my pops used to have Playboy magazines, and I remember they took me to Europe when we were a kid. We went to Paris for my sixth grade graduation. I didn't go to my graduation. My parents took us to Paris. My mom's kind of
Wow.
engineered this. So that trip kind of changed my life, and it made me think. And I remember watching my pops walk around in this pinstripe suit, and I was like, "Yo, I'm gonna be just like that when I grow up."
Right,
Right. So
right.
I had I had lofty aspirations of what I was gonna achieve when I grew up.
Wow. Now, did your parents do professions or work in a corporate space? How did your parents make money?
My pops was a mechanic. He fixed cars, and my mother was like a bookkeeper or a teacher.
Hmm.
And she worked for colleges like New York Tech so that I could go there for free. Even though I didn't go there, she sent me away because I was getting in mad trouble. I would have gotten in trouble and got this. She didn't want me to get this one girl pregnant. So she came and got me out of the girl's crib and forced me to go to school in Boston. Thank God she did that. Whoa.
Hmm.
Woo, she saved my life
Hmm.
with that shit, boy, because I'd have been fucked. But I came
Hmm.
home. Sorry. I came home and still got myself in trouble with a girl that's just as bad. So,
Hmm.
you know, but at least I got the experience of going to college and becoming an engineer and getting out of New York, and it really made me think that I was going to be a superstar. Going to college like that was a very important part of my life. For me, I needed it because I
Right.
was so all over the place, right?
Hmm.
And I was just a really stubborn kid. I wasn't really I mean, I was talented, but I was very misguided and I was looking for direction. and I was tired of getting beat up. So I like when I got to high school, I just abandoned. I played sports my whole life, baseball and soccer. Baseball, I took my team to the World Series. Soccer, I could have probably made the Olympic team if I would have kept going, right? But I got so caught up in fighting that I abandoned all sports once I moved to the affluent part of town, Westbury, and I just got caught up in fighting. Like I just wanted to know how to fight, box, right? And I idolized anybody that could fight in my town. I idolized them because I was so enamored with it. And looking back, it's a waste of time. I think that if boxing was taught in the public schools, like football and soccer, it would make a lot of black men gentlemen, because they would know how to fight, and they would have a certain mentality, like they don't want to hurt anybody, and we wouldn't hurt each other. You know, we were like, yo, there's no need to fight, man. Like, let's not do that.
Were you influenced by Mike Tyson?
Yeah, Mike Tyson was like my manhood. Mike Tyson and Michael Jordan, they were like the epitome of manhood to me. Sugar Ray Leonard, when I was a kid, Sugar Ray Leonard and Muhammad Ali, I idolized Sugar Ray Leonard. I wanted to fight just like him.
Right.
I was completely enamored by Sugar Ray Leonard back when I was a kid.
Yeah.
He
So
was my biggest idol.
when did you start boxing?
Oh, late, long time ago. Like I fought a lot of boxers in the street when I was a kid, but I just started boxing like maybe 2-3 years ago after fighting my whole life. And if I would have boxed earlier, I wouldn't have fought. But I talk about all this in the book.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking to Bintell Powell. He is a transparent person. He is original and authentic, and I appreciate that. So that's where we are in this conversation. He's a natural fighter. Bintell, did you ever connect? Did you ever parallel your desire to fight and possibly being a member of the warrior class? Do you think that at some point in your bloodline that you all were warriors, and maybe that's part of who you naturally are? You're a natural warrior. Have you ever thought about that?
Maybe that could be. You know, my mother's brothers used to fight in Montego Bay a lot. My grandfather used to take them downtown in Montego Bay and have them fight. So my mother encouraged me to fight. She liked it. When we went to Europe, this white man called us a nigger in the train station, and he came back and punched my pops in the face, and I kicked him in his rib, and I think I broke his rib, and he ran away. My mother was so happy. My mother just fell in love with me for kicking his ass, right?
Wow.
So my mother has encouraged me to fight. I didn't really know how to fight. I fought a lot, but I didn't really know what I was doing. I just did it naturally. And then when I got to college, I really started fighting. I met a guy in college, this kid Rosano, and in high school, another dude that was, you know, these guys really could fight. This kid Mark, all these guys that boxed. This guy Eric Fletcher that I grew up with, they went down to the PBC, and they were practically Golden Glove boxers, and they would beat me up every day, and I would learn to fight from them. So one day I was in college, and I saw that I was watching CNN, and these African dudes were like, they had AK-47s above their heads, and they were dancing and chanting. And I was like, they all look just like me. And I was like, that's where the fuck I'm from. Wherever I'm from, my people are at war right now. And I turned off the TV and I went to my engineering class. So I say that because I think right now, like, you know, I've fought a lot, or I didn't really shoot people up. I was not really a gangster like that. But I think right now with this book, the formula, I consider this formula sort of like economic warfare. And I think until Black people educate themselves to the point where they can defend themselves in this country. Can we show a copy of the book? Do you have a copy of the book on you?
Yeah, we'll get to the copy of the book.
Okay. Well, until Black people learn how to fight economically with America, you know, Black men are always going to get their ass kicked. Black men are not respected right now by Black women, and I think it's because society is beating Black men up. And so basically, this book is like economic warfare to me. People think it's a formula, but I think, as an engineer, I think it's a gun. I think it's a financial gun, a weapon.
I think you're making a great parallel, and when I say great, I'm saying that it's important. it's important that we begin to produce an offense in this life, in this world. And if we never produce an offense, then we'll never score. And if we never score, then we'll never win. And it seems like if we don't begin to score, it's our fault. You know, there is.
I don't know about our fault. I mean, we've endured. I agree with everything you're saying, and on some levels, I agree with it. You can say it's our fault. I can agree with that on some levels.
Mhm.
But what happened to black people in chattel slavery in America was so fucking severe that the social and economic ramifications of that, we're just coming out of it. You know, we just got a chance to vote in the 60s, right? It's been not even how 60s, how 60, 70. It's like,
Mhm.
how many years is that? That's like, what is that? 50 years, 40 years, right?
Yeah,
And
it's fairly recent. If you were critical and analytical about the ways that chattel slavery impacted us, you could say that we're not out of it right now. I mean, saying that we've been out of it for 60 years or 50 years is it's lenient. When you look at the amount that we need to catch up economically, and the damage that we're trying to overcome socioeconomically. And so I think that it is upon us to produce an offense. And when I say offense, I mean a book like yours, where we're actually giving our people the formula. If we don't produce the work, such as this book, and we lose and we continue to lose, then it becomes our fault. It does become our fault if Bintell Powell never puts his intellect into a book. It becomes our fault. If Cedric doesn't create a platform for you to come and share your story, it becomes our fault. And so, in the vein of what you're talking about, I want us to champion the urgency in this hour on America's Next Motivator. The
that's it.
black man it's been a trending topic as of late. And I'm comfortable talking about the black man tonight with you, Bintell. But what's important is accountability. And since we're talking about the black man, if this were a game of basketball, there's defense, but there's also offense. If we don't produce offense, it's a no-brainer. Somebody put some emojis in the chat. It's a no-brainer that we're going to lose. And so
No,
we've
I respect that point of view more than you ever know, and that has to be our mentality.
yeah.
But the only thing I'm saying is that slavery really did a job on black people. Like, I'm in Harlem every day, and drugs and heroin in Harlem, and the systematic Jim Crow that's and what they've done, white people have done to me. You know, and right now the disconnect between black men and black women economically and socially. There's just so many things that exacerbate this that I try to. Sometimes I feel the way you feel right now, but then sometimes I try to sympathize because we're miseducated, man. We're not taught this stuff. So um,
Okay. Okay. So as you went through high school, were you thinking about the state of our people that look like you and me? Were you thinking about the impact of slavery on us? What were your thoughts in high school besides fighting about our people in general? What were your thoughts then?
my thoughts were, how do I have sex with as many black women as possible?
Okay.
That's all I thought about in high school. I was not in high school. I was a knucklehead. I was completely enamored by rap music and fighting, and just the next fight was my. So I was so aggressive that when I went to college, they were like, "That kid, I don't think he's gonna make it." And my
Wow.
best friend from Brooklyn, his name was Ignacio St. Rose. We went to a party at MIT, and he got into a fight, and some kid from Boston stabbed him, and he died. And the kid wanted to stab me, and Iggy was fighting to try to protect me, right? He didn't know that the
Wow.
kid had a knife, and so it was just one fight after the other. But then at Northeastern, they had this place called the African American Institute, and they would
Mhm.
bring black power people down. Like, when I was a kid, I grew up listening to Bob Marley and singing those songs, right? Because that was every time Bob Marley released a new album, my pops would have a party in the basement, and wild ass Jamaicans would come over and drink fucking Irish mosh and fucking red rum and shit and wild out, right? So I grew up around a bunch of wild fighting ass Jamaicans. So when I got to college and they would bring Stokely Carmichael, the leader of the Black Panther Party, down to speak to us in the African American Institute. And I would sit there and watch them, and this other guy, D. Motley, who had allegedly kicked down the door of Northeastern University, like literally kicked the door and blam, you're letting black people in the school now or else, like, you know. And he became the chancellor of UMass Amherst. D. Motley, like, he brought me back when I failed out freshman year. He brought us all back. If it wasn't for him, I would not be here, right?
Wow. So hold on. Let's slow this down for a minute. You telling me that you pretty much dropped out of college and somebody came and got you and brought you back?
No, I failed out because we were so wild.
Right.
First year, we were fighting and wild and smoking weed, robbing drug dealers in college, that I failed out of. And my man died and I was depressed. I got stabbed, right? So I failed horribly freshman year. And Dean Motley brought me back and gave me a second chance.
Wow. How did he get you back? Like, did he go and find you, or did he send you an email? How did he go and get you?
I don't know. He had a deal with Northeastern, and they sent me a letter saying, you failed out, but we're giving you a second chance. Bring your ass back.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah, I had to report to his office, and then we would go to the African American Institute, and they would bring down all these Black Power people like Stokely Carmichael and all these people. I would see like these great jazz musicians in Boston play jazz, and I started playing jazz music. It's a whole fucking story. After my boy died, I started really like looking at the black condition and like, what the fuck, you know, black people, we have to stop killing each other, because this guy Iggy was so talented, he was so charismatic. The whole Boston and Northeastern loved him. He was gonna pledge Q, and you know, he was just like a magnetic person, right? And his girlfriend was beautiful. He was just the most, and he died. This kid stabbed him. So that hurt me. He was my best friend. Like, he and I were road dogs, right? So that hurt me so much that it stopped me in my tracks, and I didn't want to fight anybody anymore. And I turned into a nerd. I started walking around with my guitar and just studying engineering classes, and like all the young kids like me coming up started to like want to fight me, and they started talking shit to me. So I started fighting again.
Did you ever feel? Did you ever feel like you were a crab in a barrel? Because, you know, here you are trying to, you know, make a turn for the better, and now people come out of the woodwork. They want to bring you back to the old days. They want to fight you again. Did you feel like a crab in a barrel?
Nah, we were just young, and everybody was trying to like bag as many girls as possible. So if you had a fight on Northeastern's campus at a party or whatever, your name started to ring bells a little bit. People talking about you, and then some girl would give you, you know, throw you some ass. So fighting became a way of like bagging girls, right?
Okay.
The Q dogs were wild. They liked to fight, and like all those wild ass frats. So fighting just, you know, I mean, it was just the way of
part
life.
of it. Yeah, just part of it. You know, when you say that you lost your best friend, it sounded like you said your best friend's name was Iggy. I lost the best friend as well. He was always in large crowds of people where people were attracted to him. His name was Icky. My best friend's name was Icky, and we lost Icky a couple years ago.
That's incredible.
And when I lost my best friend, it was a very emotional time for me as well. It definitely got me centered a little bit about achieving my goals in life, making my life count, and really carrying on his legacy to an extent. He was also a very magnetic person. So I can identify with you when you say, you know, it impacted you when your good friend, you know, was taken away from you like that. So now you're in college and you're an engineering student. It's not easy to be an engineering student. So I want you to talk to me about how you were able to get focused and actually complete your degree.
So I had some friends who who I went to high school with, and who were going to school at Boston University, and they were graduating and getting out, and they were starting their own company. Their older brother's name was Mark. He became the CEO of Quincy Jones's record label. And I started hearing stories about, them throwing all these incredible parties, and I wanted to graduate and get into the money game, right? I wanted to start making money. And plus, my mom was running out of money, so she couldn't keep funding my failure. And so I had to get out so I could make money and take care of her. So getting out, so I started at the end of my career at college, I'd really buckled down. I started taking 8 classes when I was supposed to take 4. And I started really doing well. I got all A's and B's. And then I graduated. I finally got out, but because I learned to tap dance through the formulas. And they threw all kinds of formulas at us. I didn't understand what I was learning. I just knew how to get the right answer.
Wow.
So when I graduated, I got a job as a sales engineer because I always wanted to be in sales. And when I was in Boston, I did telecommunication sales for MCI or something. So when I graduated and I looked in the paper and I saw that the salespeople made more money than all the other professions, I knew that if I made $200,000 coming out, that would be a way for me to keep up with my friends who were running Quincy Jones's record label. So sales became a way of me making enough money to keep up with the people who were really successful.
Talk to me about high level sales positions. A lot of people, when they think about sales, they think, oh, I'm working at a dispatcher. I'm working in a cubicle making minimum wage, or I'm going door to door, selling energy services that nobody wants. And a lot of people, they have the wrong idea about sales. But I want you to talk to me. Go ahead.
So sales pays more than any other profession on earth. And I was selling technology, right?
Yep.
But all professions, what I learned, which is why I wrote the book, are really only made of 2 parts. All companies, right? The part that engineers the product and then the part that sells it. And my first job was a sales engineer. So they would send me. My mom used to take me to shop at Barney's when I was a kid. So I reinvented myself. I went and bought all these expensive suits, and I reinvented myself and got a job as a sales engineer. And I would go to these companies. I didn't know anything about computers, even though I had an engineering degree. I didn't know I studied electrical engineering, right? So I would go to these companies, and after a while, I realized that I would learn to design their computer systems, right? And I would go back to my office and stay in there 12 hours, not sleeping, like a mad scientist designing computer systems. And I would sell it to companies like Condé Nast or Dwayne Reed, right? And I would sell them these $200,000 computer systems. And sometimes the deals were $20 million, right? And I was starting to make real serious money. But aside from the money, I learned that all companies are made of only 2 parts: the part that engineers the product and the part that sells it. And then I started to understand why Northeastern put us through all of that torture with all those mathematical formulas and logic statements. And I was like, wow, they gave us all this shit, right? But they didn't show us how to use it to make ourselves like the next Elon Musk or Steve Jobs, right?
That's right.
After a while, I was like, I see what they're doing. So by day, I was selling these computer systems as this sales engineer, which was a cool job. Job, right? I went a trip to Monte Carlo. I made a lot of money, right? But then at night, because my buddies were doing this party, I would be in their parties watching them, what they're doing in their office. And I saw that what I was doing during the day was exactly what my friends were doing for these celebrities at night. And that's when the formula finally dawned on me. And I was like, oh, that's how you use this shit. And I started running circles around my managers. Now, mind you, even though I had the formula, when I would close a large deal, they would fire me every time and give my deal to some white boy, right?
Whoa. Hold on.
That happened a lot. And that's why I'm doing this, because it's going to happen. It's going to happen again and again and again. because they when you work as a sales engineer, right, they give you these, you have to sign that they could fire you for any reason. And it's called an at-will employee, right? So they could do any fucking thing they want to you. I closed the deal with the Montefiore Hospital, right? I went out to the Hamptons. I met the head designer, and I met the head consultant for the Montefiore Hospital. His name was Seth, and I hung out there at this bed and breakfast called Putty Place in East Hampton. And at the end, and they just so happened to be looking to redo their entire voice over IP network for the whole hospital, and that's what we did. We sold Nortel voice over IP. So I came back to the office and I was like, hey, Seth, I dealt with your black jokes all week and I didn't give you a slap in the head, all right? I want to make sure that I get that bid, right? He was like, and his wife at the time was like, she got a new breast implant. She was by the pool flirting with me. He was getting pissed, but I was ignoring it. and she was like, I bribed him. I said, I'll buy you whatever. I'll get you a Rolex if you make sure I get the deal. But he didn't give me the deal because of that. He gave me the deal because we had a superior product. And they hated Verizon, right? So I got the deal, and I remember calling my boss and saying, Don, his name was Don. Don, what's his name? I'm gonna say his name because I don't give a shit. I hope he's embarrassed.
No, don't say his name, man. No, don't say his whole name. Don't say his whole name. Look, listen. Hold on. Pause.
What?
Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking to Bintell Powell. This is an authentic American story. This guy is no joke. We're going to take a break right now, and I want you to remain a part of this broadcast because we are not done. We're going to talk about his book and the mission and the campaign that he's currently on. Bintell Powell will be right back after this brief message. America's Next Motivator. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern. America's Next Motivator. Hosted by me, Cedric Riley, sponsored by the Pride Empowerment Network and our viewership. And we're back. Ladies and gentlemen, I see your comments coming in. I appreciate them. Let's keep it going. Lulu Bailey says, I'm all for outing jerks. He should name names. I don't want to get anybody into any trouble by actually naming names, but I like your audacity. I like the bird's eye view of what you decided to do. You realize that your charisma, your tenacity was getting your company this close to the deal. And instead of allowing you to finish the deal and get the money that you were just due, they were firing you. And I wonder how many other people in America, black people, black men, or black women have experienced exactly what you've experienced. And so you didn't take his head off for firing you, but you decided to help out the general public in that case. Am I right? Is that how this book came about?
Correct. So
okay.
I wanted to expose all that I'd learned from them because even though Don fired me, well, Don didn't have the ball. Don O'Brien didn't have the balls to fire me. His boss did, right? He didn't even call me. His boss called me and was like, we're firing you for a lack of production. I just called a $20 million deal. What do you mean lack of production? They tried everything to take that deal from me. They did not want me to be the #1 sales rep in the company, and that's what I would have been. I'd have been the #1 sales rep in 4 months. They didn't want a black man doing that, right?
Right.
So the guy, Seth, who met me, he was like, you would fire him after he met me in the Hamptons on his day off and brought you this large of a deal. You have that little bit of, and he was Jewish, right? So sometimes Jewish people, even though they can be racist too, Sometimes Jewish people are like, no, fuck that, that's wrong, right?
Right.
And they,
Yeah.
because a Jewish guy hired me and
Right.
gave me this formula. His name was Rich Tereskin. He was my father. He loved me. He hired me. There was 4 engineers, and he hired me, and I was black, and I was the only black one, and I was his favorite.
Mm-hmm.
He wouldn't let anybody fire me. Unfortunately, Rich died. Rich died of cancer, right? And I wish I can't go find him. I owe him everything. I owe Rich everything. I walked into his office. He had a picture of Michael Jordan above his desk. I knew I was getting the job. I knew I was
Right.
getting the job, right? So you can't really hate everybody. Can't really hate all white people for racism, but it's there. So, so I was starting to run circles around Don O'Brien, right? And I would come in, I'd be like, Don, did you hear about this big deal? He'd be like, Bintell, how did you find out about that? And that's how I knew my formula worked. Because there's a number
Okay.
of different ways you can use it, right? So,
Yeah.
my mother got sick. Right then, they let me go, and I wrote my first book. My first book was called Betrayed. That book is about the disconnect in the black community between light and dark skin. And
Okay.
I got all over TV. I was on the Wendy Williams shows, on Howard Stern. I acted as my own publicist, and I got myself in every magazine. It was my 5 minutes of fame. Right?
Yeah.
And then I was selling it, but I couldn't. My mother got sick. She got sick of dementia. So for 12 years, I had to stop what I was doing and take care of her. And I didn't, the last thing you want to see is your mother die. It's just it's a terrible process to watch, right? Especially being the fact that my mother was the one who gave me everything. She gave me my love of sports, of music, everything that I hated, reading, writing, all the shit that I'm using to keep myself alive right now is because of her. So losing her was like losing everything.
Yeah.
And so for 12 years, I had this formula written. I was finishing it while she was dying, and I started selling it to schools. But the schools, they wanted me to give it to them for free, or they don't give a shit about the kids. They don't care about those kids. They do not care.
Wow.
Right? They do not care about the schools. Most of the companies like mine, technology companies that are in tech ed, to be successful, you have to go around the schools. You have to go to the actual customers, because the schools are not going to do anything if it doesn't benefit them, even if they know it can help the kids.
So talk to me. First, I want to talk about your first project, Betrayal. And you said in that book you talk about the disconnect between dark-skinned people and light-skinned people, and you're talking about black people, right?
Correct.
Explain your philosophy there, because I do find that to be a big issue. I think it's something that we get hung up on a lot, and it distracts us from producing offense as a whole.
Yeah, so check it. So there was this consultant named Willie Lynch that was brought to the Caribbean to get the Caribbean slaves under control. He was brought to America, right? And he had a number of tactics that he used to get the slaves under control. One was to create this hierarchy of value in the community, right? So the light-skinned people were considered more valuable than the dark-skinned people. And what that does, they say that it's the most painful thing that we as black people have to deal with every day. This notion that our own brothers and sisters, because they have lighter skin, are more valuable and are better human beings than us. It divides us, right? And you know that in business is all about relationships. So if the black community won't do business with itself because of this color divide, right? That means the black community has no relationships with itself. That means it's a broken money machine. And that's why it's important that we have to deal with this issue. We can't sweep it under the rug. It is the thing that white racist America uses consistently to throw eggs on us, and it like discombobulates us mentally, and it stops us from cohabitating economically and socially on a way that allows us to grow. All right?
Okay.
It's like a poison. It's like a social virus.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that Willie Lynch did was that he said, take the biggest, strongest slave bring him out into the courtyard, tie his arms to two ends of a horse, right? Light him on fire in front of all the little black children and black women. And when he's burnt to a crisp, slap the horses on the ass and they pull him apart. His brains go one way, his body's pulled apart, right? This terrifies the black slaves, right? But what it also does is it teaches the black woman that, you see that black strong man over there that you love, that you think is your savior? He can't save you if I want to kill you. So if you have any problems, don't go to him, come to me. What that has done over the years is created this disconnect, not only on lines of color in the black community, but between black men and black women.
So hold on. So what you're telling me today.
One second. I just want to also say that a picture of this black man being pulled apart is on the back of the Levi jean tag. That's how big of a part of the economic fabric of America that this practice became. It's on the back of the Levi jean tag. So any black people that are wearing Levi jeans, you don't even know that's what Levi jeans has used to destroy your people, and is flaunting it in your face.
So what I'm hearing from you tonight is that, first of all, when you say that there's a racist attitude toward black people, that's not just waxing poetic. That's not just some type of commentary. Those are actual facts that based off of actual things that happened in the past. And when you talk about an artifact,
it is historically factual that these things happen to us and still reverberate in our society today. It's been passed down to generation. This mentality, this decoding, it's epigenetic coding.
So we need to realize that we have been conditioned not to like each other based on the color of our skin, based on our orientation, whether we are a male or a female, whether we are young or old, whether we are light skinned or dark skinned. And so we have to unlearn that conditioning. We have to look and say, we are all beautiful, we are all valuable. All of us need to band together as the family that we really are. You're not better than me because you're light skinned, and I'm not better than you because I'm darker than you. And so it goes both ways. When we come together,
whatever we have the idea to, whatever we have to do the opposite of what society has programmed us to do. We have to do the opposite of that. So whatever we're feeling to do, if you feel like, if you're a black woman and you feel like saying, nigga, you ain't shit, you ain't got no money, I don't need you, nigga, I'll do bad on my own. You need to stop that. All right, you're a black woman if you're doing that. If you're a light-skinned person and you have a job and white people have given you certain perks in society and you look down your nose at dark-skinned black people, you need to stop that. If you're dark-skinned and you beat up light-skinned people just because they're light-skinned and they may be good people, you need to stop that. All right, black people need each other. We have one common economic enemy, and we can't beat them divided. We can't defend ourselves divided. I don't know how else to say it.
You said that when we are united, then we are a money machine. Explain that.
Black people in America are the 9th richest nation on earth. If we were to band together economically and only do business with each other, the United States of America would bend at our feet and they would say, please, what do you need to do, sir? We would never be fucking harassed by the police. We would never. The police are fucking immaterial. The companies, they control the laws. America is not a democracy, it's a republic. It's controlled by laws. The companies make the laws. So if you start making our own multi-billion-dollar companies, then we can change the laws to suit our liking. And then the police will enforce the law to protect us. And there's nothing anyone can do to stop it.
Okay, so let's make believe right here inside this hour on America's Next Motivator. Tonight, we are talking to the knuckleheads. We're talking to the white people. We're talking to the black people. We're talking to the men, the women, young and old. Let's make believe tonight that we are creating a multi-billion-dollar industry, and you are giving us 5 tips that we would need to create a billion-dollar industry using your formula. Tonight, I would like for us to use, let's say, a organization that serves the youth.
All right,
How
it
can
doesn't
we
matter. Check it out. It doesn't matter what kind of organization we
Okay,
use,
go ahead.
all right? So in the white Ivy League schools, right, those kids focus in on creating 2 things. They are the epicenter of corporate success. One of them is called a disruptive innovation. A disruptive innovation is a new product that comes around and destroys an industry, it disrupts an industry, right? And builds a whole new industry to replace it.
That's right.
It's the most aggressive stance in all of corporate America. And it's based on a human being's ability to imagine or come up with a new idea for a life-changing disruptive product, right?
Right. Yeah.
So, as an example, Uber is disrupting the way we travel. Netflix is disrupting the way we interact with the media, right? Sean Fanning, the guy who went to Northeastern University, who invented Napster, he disrupted the music industry, put Tower Records out of business, right? And rebuilt a whole new digital music industry in its place, right? When engineers usually do this, right? I happen to be an engineer. The thing is, they gave me all the tools to make a disruptive innovation. They just didn't tell me how to use it. Because at Northeastern, although it's a very prestigious school, allegedly, it's still trying to drive the mentality that you're going to use your engineering talents to get a job to work for American Express or to work for IBM. At Harvard and MIT, those guys are taught you're to create the next American Express. All right, that's the mentality there. So
they're teaching
differently.
They're teaching them to become disruptive innovators.
Correct.
Okay.
They're not teaching everybody else. So what they're doing is basically economically segregating the poor, white and black, into the upper and the underclass at these Ivy League schools, right?
Yeah.
Now, the reason why the formula is a disruptive innovation is because I'm trying to do the opposite. I'm trying to educate the underclass with all that they showed me. They didn't teach me. I had to figure this out on my own, how to create disruptive innovations so that the underclass can soon become the upper class. That's why I'm doing this. All right. I've never got a chance to say that on any other show but this one. All right. And that's formula.
Hold on 1 second.
Yep.
What you have decided to do is heroic. It makes you an American champion. It makes you an effective fighter. It makes you an efficient warrior. You decided to take some of this key information that makes the difference between the upper class and the lower class, and you're making it available to everybody.
Correct.
This is an iconic decision that you've made. What you're telling us to do today is not just to get a job inside somebody's corporation, but to be a disruptor to a market, replace a market. And it's that type of thinking that's going to produce the supreme offense that we need. I said this last week that the black man has a particular contribution that needs to be made in society. The black man, not everybody else. I'm talking about the black man. He has a specific contribution that needs to be made to society, and that will uplift all of humanity. I said that, and here you are telling us to be disruptive innovators, to create whole new markets. You're telling us to create whole new markets instead of joining the market. So now what's the second part? Go ahead.
So so if the black community, who already creates a lot of the innovation that has made America what it is today, black people created open heart surgery, the dry cleaning technology, the gas mask,
That's
the
right.
stoplight. I can go on and on and on with all the innovations that without the stoplight, America couldn't have conquered the West, because they couldn't have traversed those trains across the country. The stoplight made that possible.
That's right.
It would have been chaos, right?
That's right.
So we, with our innovations, with zero education, built this country. All right.
That's right.
Imagine if George Washington Carver had patented all of his innovations. There'd be $1 billion. The Carver Inc. would be a black company worth billions of dollars.
That's
and
right.
it'd be hiring and owned by black people.
That's right.
Economic power base with just that one company, right?
That's right. What's the second part here? The first part is to be a disruptive innovator. What's the second part?
The second part is to use the notion of sales and business models to turn that disruptive innovation into a company worth $1 billion at minimum. And that is called a unicorn. That's what the white kids that go to the Ivy League schools aspire to do that. And incidentally, they use models and formulas to do this on the back end, right? They use
What does that mean? What does that mean?
Models are basically like an example of success. That's exactly what a model is, right? Mm-hmm. So business models are examples of how you can sell a product successfully internationally, locally, nationwide. And these models help you to take that disruptive innovation and create the right relationships to sell it all over the world, right?
Wow.
That's what's in my formula. A business model that you can use that's ubiquitous, meaning you can use it in fashion, you can use it in electronics. Because remember, I was consulting to fashion companies and CVS and Starbucks. I was the guy that they would send out to show them how to fix their company with my computer system. That means that Bintell knows how these companies work. Because I was fixing them with computers. You understand? Making them go faster. I was supercharging them with my computer systems.
That's right. See,
so I know how they work. And that's what I'm going to show you. I was like their hitman, right? I'm a spy. So what I did was I spied on them, saw how they do what they do, packaged it in a formula, and I'm giving it to the world. That's what I done. That's what I've done. And I always wanted to be James Bond, and now I get my chance.
and now in a matter of speaking, you have become, you've become Bintell Powell. You gave birth to the Unicorn Challenge right here on America's Next Motivator. We need to go out there and we need to create unicorns. We need to build disruptive technologies that make the world into the way that we see that the world needs to go.
Correct.
And so the Unicorn Challenge, if you are watching this episode today or in the future, I want you to go out there and create a unicorn. You go into a classroom full of young kids today, so many young girls, they love unicorns. What if their definition of a unicorn was a disruptive technology that replaces industries of old that aren't efficient, aren't effective, and aren't helping humanity the way that they're supposed to be doing? Now, we round third base.
You're out. Now your shit is out. Your shit is blooming now. You're blossoming. Now you're blossoming. Look at you.
yeah, man. You're changing my perspective. You're changing my perspective.
But check it out, Cedric. This is not taught in the schools. There's some entrepreneurial classes where you can learn how to do it, but you have to find a school that teaches entrepreneurship to do it. I'm saying that if you read my book, remember, I'm an engineer and a salesman. I'm putting how to do that in my book.
Where can people buy this book? How can people buy this book tonight if they want to?
They can go to my website. My website is actually down right now till tomorrow.
What's your email address?
My email address is bintellpowell@gmail.com. And if they send $20 to my PayPal account, I will mail them the book. And they can go on my Instagram page. They can see some of the people talking about it. I sell it to banks and car dealerships. I've sold it to the Eagle Academies at, public schools, Dale County Public School, Dade in Florida. They want me to implement it throughout the entire district. New York City DOE wants me to do it. I've taught it all these schools. I've taught it Hofstra. I've taught it the CUNY colleges, the Black Male Initiative.
Okay,
so you can
hold
see
on.
all that stuff on YouTube.
Hold on. We are down to the final 20 seconds of the show. I have 3 questions for you. And you guys know, get your crown emojis ready, y'all. Get the crown emojis ready, y'all, because he's a warrior. First question, what is survival to you?
Survival is economic and social defense, and our families back united, Black men and Black women together, and us having an economic power base that benefits our communities.
What is success to you?
If this formula does what I want it to do, not to be ridiculous, but I think I could be assassinated.
What is success to you?
Success is the formula, doing what I wanted to do and creating Black communities that are like Silicon Valleys in themselves. To have all Black children coming out thinking about being the next disruptor and becoming great, entrepreneurs and owning their own companies and just being great in whatever.
What is greatness to you? What is greatness to you?
The attainment of wealth, fame, and power.
Ladies and gentlemen, Bintell Powell today, an American hero. We are giving you your respect today. We're giving you your respect today. You fought long and hard for it. We're giving it to you today. And we're giving you a crown today while you're still alive to receive it. Ladies and gentlemen, put your crown emojis into the chat. Ladies and gentlemen, put your crown emojis into the chat. We are letting you know, letting the world know. Go ahead.
If they want the book, if they text me $15, so I said 20 before, but if you text me $15 to my PayPal account, bintellpowell@gmail.com, I will mail you an autographed copy of the book signed. And you can also participate in a $5,000 business plan competition. I'm going to give somebody $5,000 on August 23rd. Whoever comes up with the best idea for a new disruptor and a unicorn company, I'm going to give one person $5,000. We're going to continue to run these contests so that we can get people excited about it. But August 23rd is our first $5,000 giveaway.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, Bintell Powell, get in touch, look him up, uphold his legacy. Don't let his life be in vain. Talk to you guys tomorrow.